There's a wonderful quote in the preface: if you live in the West today, and particularly if you are a student, this story is your story. Considering the highly diverse student population in so many college classrooms, how would you make the case that this is the story for students?
Well, I would say that everybody has many stories. And students who come into Western Civ courses have all of their own different stories. They have their different ancestries, their different traditions, their different families, the places they've lived. But they are in a country which traditions derive in very large part from the West. The traditions of politics, the traditions of law, of culture, not, again, by no means in a kind of hermetic, sealed-off way, absolutely not. But still there are continuities, very, very important continuities. The very institutions in which they're learning, whether these be universities or four-year colleges or community colleges, are shaped by a very strong Western tradition. And I think it's important that the students recognize this, and recognize that even if they are recent immigrants, even if they have come in the last year from South Asia, from East Asia, from Africa, nonetheless, by being here, they've become part of this larger story. And it's important for them to know something about that. Then it will help them to know something about this part of this one story of theirs, which will take its place with all the other stories that they have.
David's put it beautifully. I would only add that our story of the West is a story of learning from other people's, integrating in some cases other people's forcibly or not forcibly into the lands that become part of the core of the West, offering or forcing Christianity on other peoples. That the West's story is one of expansion, of borders that have often been very open, very loose, and that, as David says, wherever you come from originally, if you're in a university now, you're in an institution which has its roots in the West. If you're studying science in one of your courses, you're studying a tradition which is not entirely, but partly and deeply rooted in the West. If you are worshiping a single God, as many students are, you are doing something which is in a Western tradition of religion, quite different from many other kinds of world religions. So I would argue that people can see themselves in this story, not entirely because we come from so many different places, but in important ways.
And I would say just one more thing, just building on what Tony just said. I mean, there's a very old term in the West, which is the term lingua franca, kind of common language. And if people are here in the United States or North America studying at any university, and you have people who have come from East Asia, from Africa, from South Asia, from Europe, from Latin America, what is going to be their lingua franca when they're talking about intellectual issues, when they're talking about things that matter, about political values, about moral values? They will bring things from their own traditions, and that will allow them to instruct other people. But in order for them to be understood, they need common points of reference. And if they're here in the West, then it is logical that the West provide many, if not all, of those common points of reference. And again, that's one of the things we aim to do in these courses and in these books, is to provide these common points of reference that people can use to communicate with each other and to exchange ideas that come from well beyond the West.